Hello, everybody. Welcome to the JRPG Report. This is going to be our Sunday special episode 29, and we've got a really fun interview coming up for you guys here in just a moment. I'm going to be joined with Darrel Wijaya. Oh, God, I butchered it, didn't I?
It's fine.
Why don't you introduce yourself so I don't do that again?
No worries. So, hi, I'm Darrel Wijaya.
I'm so sorry.
It's good. You don't worry about it.
And you are of Nomina Games, and you've got a brand new game that's actually out right now for players to play, the Revenant Prince. So we're going to be talking quite a bit about the game and a little bit about yourself. So first and foremost, why don't you just tell people who you are and what we're going to be talking about today in this brand new game.
So yeah, sure. I'll start. But I'm Darrel Wijaya. So I run a small shop called Nomina Games. We just started about a year ago, the brand, and I created the Revenant Prince. We started development in early 2017, seriously developing it, but it was always on my mind since 2015 when I started college. So the entire premise was that a friend of mine was making a game, so I thought, hey, he dared me to make a game, literally on the spot, and I ended up doing it. It took a lot of effort, but it was worth it. I got it out approximately, I think it was 2 weeks ago or so, right? So, okay. Yeah, it's been a good journey, but the game is essentially inspired. I just basically have a thing for pixel art games. Ever since I was a kid, I loved it to death, and back in 2015, it was all the rage. So I thought, hey, if I make a game that's pixel art, with a fun story, maybe like interesting outcomes, then this may do good. But yeah, that's the idea.
That's great. Did you ever look back and say 5 years ago, I really wish I would have just kept my mouth shut or not accepted that challenge?
You know what? Come to think of it, part of me wants to say yes, maybe I should just done something else. But, I thought this was more of a spiritual journey than it was, a challenge. So I grew from it, and thank God I took it up, and I didn't give up on it. I think it's easy for indie devs, especially that are just trying out now, to just, give up on the first few months because of, financial issues and such. And definitely what this industry teaches you is how to hold on, how to persevere. I think it's a beautiful thing to hold on to what you love and getting it out in the world, regardless of how well it does. That's what I think.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a lot to be said in the growth that you experienced, and setting a goal and sticking to it, not giving up halfway through. And yeah, you've got that now. It's kind of like writing a book or doing something. It's always etched in stone. It's always going to be there. They can't take it away from you now. It's out there.
It's out there, yeah. But I'll tell you the truth that some people in their college years, they find great success, but sometimes the best advice I can give any developers is not to compare yourself, not to be too hard on yourself when you see, someone who's just starting out, just strikes gold, and you're out here busting your butt, nothing to show for. I think the best thing you could ever do is just to remain true to yourself, really. That's half the battle, in my opinion, as anything. When you make games, make music, or trying to get out there. So this is my first game, and I spent too much time on it. Let's face it, a good solid 3 years. Oh my God, 3 years or so plus. Yeah, just hammering it out. But it was a great journey. And the story, funny thing about the story is that the game wasn't called The Revenant Prince, actually.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So when we started the game, it was called A Story of the End Revere, which the title is extremely long. And me being a kid that time, I was very philosophical, right? I didn't know how to brand things. So I thought, the title is too long. What does it mean? So I just changed it the last minute. Actually, I changed it as I made Nomina Game, as I, trademarked the title Nomina Games.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah. It was a massive change, and I stuck with it till today.
Instant feedback. I think you made a good choice there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The old title is it was not satisfactory. People were confused, and when my parents were like, "What's the game called?" I had to say this long title. It was Paul Revere. It's like, huh? It's like, doesn't make any sense.
not too many JRPGs dealing with ancient American history. No.
Oh yeah, no. That's why like I had to rebrand it immediately. I know that if I got to stand a chance, I at least got to have a good title. So
that is very true. You need something that's marketable and an easy website to enter. Yeah.
You need something quick.
Yes. Yeah.
So basically, I thought, hey, the game's about a guy who's going through a time loop, right? He's always living and dying. So why not call it the Revenant Prince? And him being a prince because of spoiler reasons. So
we won't talk about that.
The game. Oh yeah, we're not talking about it. There's actually, the game actually went out and people basically, when they played the game, it's not for everybody, but it's for like people that love to just find out the hidden, Easter eggs, so to speak. People love that stuff. And I thought, if I leave it out there for a long time, and people slowly play it, they slowly like write it out, it might do well as time goes on, but you never know.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, yeah, it's not something that you're expecting to get, $1 million overnight.
No.
I mean, that'd be. Oh, I'm sure you'd be okay with that, but still, yeah.
Like I'll tell you something. Like when you get something out, I think you have to expect the worst, but if anything, find pride in however well it does. To be honest, that's what's in it for me. To be honest, the joy of just getting it out there. That's what I think.
I think that's the right attitude to have. That way, you can keep a level head if you don't have your expectations too high, then you're easily, happy with it. And speaking of which, it is, like you said, it came out about 2 weeks ago, and it's available on Steam right now. And at least in the U.S., you've got it at $9.99. I think that's an excellent entry point for people to get in there and experience this awesome game.
Yeah, they told me to price it at higher than that, but I thought, hey, I gotta price it this. I want to be I want it to be like accessible to everybody. To be honest with you, I think it's a lot of games that come out now. Like, some games are made with stock assets and they come out and they sell for like $20, $29. It's like, why? So it's just this game. I put my heart into it and I want it to be played by everybody. Just to. I hope they could experience it. That's just what I'm looking for, more than anything, more than the profits, to be honest.
Right. I mean, like I said, it's your first game too, so you kind of want to get your name out there, get people to know the brand, and then you can. I'm assuming there's plans for future development of either a sequel or a new game.
You know what? This is just a one-off thing, but I'll probably make games that are more of the market, because I think the biggest mistake that I made starting the first game was I took too long and I didn't analyze the market well enough. So, a lot of indie devs, they start small by making games that fit the market, and it does well. But what I did was, I was more of like a artist. I just focused on one thing. I didn't care what anybody said, and I just made it. So it was more of that, to be honest with you. But this was more of a lesson than it is something that I hope to, make a lucrative amount of money off, to be honest.
It almost,
which I find,
I was going to say, it almost sounds like a college final thesis or, project.
That, you know what? That was my thesis because I struggled with it. And in the end, it's done. And I found great joy in completing it. Yeah. And more than anything.
It sounds like you made a game that was, personal to you and something that you were inspired by JRPGs of earlier years. In your description, you mentioned Golden Sun and Grandia. Those were very influential in your life?
Oh, yeah. When I was young, I had a thing for Pixar games, right? So Grandia, the soundtrack is impeccable. It's beautiful.
Yes.
And, storyline. And during that time, dialogue boxes, everything was just, very cookie cutter. It's very old.
Yeah.
But you got to admit that some games during that time were charming in their right. And that's what drew me in as a kid. It was my mom's room. I was playing the old PS1 games. And in the end, I just fell in love with the title. I remember eating French fries, just playing the game every day. And it grew on me. I didn't know what the story was because I was a kid. I was too young to understand, right? But the music and the art was just visible to stick to me till this day, So That's why I thought, if I want to make one game, I might as well just do something that stuck with me till this day. So I took after Grandia more than anything, to be honest. Actually, yeah, Grandia was the game that I took, after. And of course, a game called Ragnarok Online, which is an old online game. But, oh yeah.
I'm not familiar with that one, but that's a computer one, so I'm probably not familiar with it.
Oh yeah, that's a computer one.
Okay,
it's just Korean made.
Gotcha. Well, I'm sure there's a few listeners that will recognize it, but even more, including myself, Grandia is in the pantheon of one of my favorite series of all time, and I even love 3. So you know how much of a fan I am by saying that. So. It's one of the ones I'd love to see a proper sequel to, but I love games that are inspired by it because I think it's one of, not only it's charming art style, music, but that battle system is just phenomenal even to this day.
Oh yeah, it's pretty good, dude. It's magical. Yeah, something about the old JRPGs that they just were magical. It's just maybe the way they were written, the way they were presented. It's just magic. It's just something you can't really find these days. Everything is 3D and everything is just so, modernized.
Mm-hmm. People then, they go for graphics over gameplay and story more than anything.
Yeah. Well, that's why, I hope that as I get older, when I make more games, I want to make something a little more magical but modern. I combine the two.
I think that would sell well, so you should definitely go there.
I hope so.
So it sounds like you're not going to sign up for another 3 or 4 year developed JRPG. You might go for something a little more adventure based or something.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to make is something. Metroidvania, right? Metroidvania games.
Yes.
Like those side scroller games. Yeah, I'm trying to do that. It's easier to make. It's more to the market. It's something that will never die.
No,
in my opinion. Because it's side scroll, it's action, it's fun, and I'm hoping to make it about something cool, something a bit sassy. I think it's on my Twitter account. It's a game called Space Diva. If you heard of it.
Okay, no, I haven't, but I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
So that's something I'm planning to start with a relative of mine. Okay. So hopefully that'll do good. But of course, I gotta figure out who to hire because COVID-19. You gotta work from remote and all that.
Yeah,
it's gonna be hell. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I mean, you mentioned Metroidvania. These games have been going on for 30 years, and they're still popular to this day. Yeah. So why not? That seems like a good formula to go for.
Oh yeah, what makes a game popular, I noticed in terms of how they work, their design, is if a game has simple. In a way, if a game was simple enough to use in terms of how people use their keys or what their controls are simple. Mm-hmm. And the visuals are stimulating. The camera shakes, it jitters, there's flashes and things flying around. It's an addiction. It's like a drug. People love that. That's what gets people to play FPS and, all these visuals. The fact that they're quick. Games are quick, simple, and easy to grasp are ones that sell the most. In this case, the Revenant Prince, it's a complex game. People have to go through a lot to get rewarded. This is why, combat system, the Revenant Prince is it's simple, but it's challenging, But if you look at Metro, Katana Zero by Devolver, right? Have you heard of that game?
Yes. Yeah.
It's simple. You just click one button and things fly around. So I'm trying to figure out a way how to make a game that's in-depth but not too simple. Got to find that fine mix, in my opinion. That's what makes a perfect Metroidvania game.
It would, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. But then again, you have to try. There's no do, there's only try.
That's a good Yoda quote. Absolutely.
Wait, no, actually, sorry. You can only.
There is no try. There's only do. Yeah. I heard what you meant to say. So.
Oh yeah.
So we're getting off of what we should be talking about. That's your new game. I got to check it out for about an hour the other night, and I was very impressed with the gameplay. You certainly nailed that art style, and I've been playing the Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky series. Cold Steel. I'm not sure if you've played through any.
I've heard of it.
Okay, yeah. It's a bit more lighthearted, so I kind of was almost a little bit. Your game's very heavy, right from the very get go, in my opinion. And they're dealing with some stuff that I've not dealt with in a while. But I know you're setting the stage for something bigger and better. Was that a conscious decision to kind of start it and kind of grasp that attention?
Okay, but I have a thing for the Souls games, right? Dark Souls. This game essentially, I made it dark because in the end, there are 3 endings to the game.
Okay.
And the true ending, the true villain, no spoilers, is actually it's a pretty dark thing,
Okay.
And if you read it in between the lines, you read the lore, you actually see what's happening as you play through the game constantly, subsequently, because each time you play through the game, something changes. That's the magic of the game. And each time you kill something, something changes, or each time you do this, something changes. And each time, you save your file and you do something bad, what happens to your save file? Look at the images, These small details that I programmed to the game, are meant to illustrate the choices you make. And the consequences of making those choices tie into why the game is so dark. But of course, that's spoilers,
We'll try not to get too much into that.
Oh, yeah. But if I were to tell one thing, the Revenant Prince is basically a guy going through a time loop, right? But there's some ramifications to that, which has some pretty dark, consequences to it. That's why the game is dark in nature. However, there's some lighthearted characters which hopefully would offset it, not to make it too depressing. Like Undertale, the game is essentially pretty dark, but there's some pretty funny moments. People love that. There's a fine mix between something sinister and something, dark. That's why I don't include any swear words in the game. The game's clean.
That's
right.
Cool.
It's supposed to be clean. Yeah. So if there is a mix of both components, I think it just makes the game a lot more appealing to some audiences, which I believe. Some people love it when when something is serious covered in something a bit light. It's just more, how do you say? It's more enticing. You know what I mean? It's just something more. People are like, what's going to happen next? What's the mystery factor in that?
Oh yeah,
that's why I made it dark.
I can appreciate that. That's kind of the way I live my everyday life. Is stuff can be super serious, but I choose to laugh about things and carry on. And you kind of brought it up before I could bring it to you, even though it is a dark game. Just in my initial playing time, I think I made 3 choices that seemed pretty heavy, and then like you said, each battle, you can choose to execute or save. Just the random
each
people.
Enemy.
And but then it's super serious. But then like when you talk to people and the monsters themselves, they kind of say kind of lighthearted, funny things. So it's a very. I found myself laughing and then also be like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" at the same time.
The thing is that if you fought all the bosses, it does get pretty dark. At the same time, if you make certain choices, there's some funny moments. So keep an eye for that. Like, how far are you in the game, out of curiosity?
I guess I just fought the first boss fight without ruining anything. Yeah, and that was a lot more challenging than I thought it was going to initially be. I was still kind of getting used to the controls and.
Don't worry. Yeah.
See, my biggest fault is I'm a console gamer, so I'd have to play with a controller, which I know your game is kind of set up to play with mouse and keyboard by default, and so somebody had kind of uploaded a version on Steam for you to play with the controller, and it wasn't perfect. I'll go. So
it's hard.
It was a little difficult. I wasn't quite sure what I was doing, but I did it. I made it. But yeah, that was that first choice. I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do here. So I give you kudos for making me really ponder my moral decisions there already.
That's the entire idea. And I made sure the game itself, the game actually will remember your actions even if you start a new game.
Oh, wow.
That's
okay.
Yeah, that's the magic. So if you wonder why the save slots have 4 squares, right? Even though there's only one playable character.
Yes.
If you do something bad, something scary will appear in those slots, So these small, minute things could very well show if you make the wrong choices. But that's just, something to get to wonder. People like, why is there 4 squares in the safe slot? Well, I just told you. But I won't tell you what shows up because it's a bit eerie.
You shouldn't know. Is that kind of a nod to like Metal Gear and Psycho Mantis reading your memory card or something?
Those little small things. Yeah. I had a big. I actually wrote an article about why I love Metal Gear Solid. You know, Hideo Kojima is actually one of the more profound game developers. He watched a lot of movies, and I love movies too. You know, I mean, I've watched a lot of it, so I think it's a great thing.
Oh yeah, I would dare say almost every developer nowadays has been influenced by Kojima in more than one fashion.
Oh yeah,
he's made some incredible games. So what? I couldn't put my finger on what game the Revenant Prince reminded me of. So I guess it's obviously a mixture of a bunch of things. What would you say is the main influence for the game?
So the biggest influence of the game was practically Undertale.
Okay.
It was the biggest influence because Undertale has the same mechanics. However, I was trying to make something a little more, a little more human, so to speak, with more JRPG look. Yes. That's what I was trying to go for. I was also trying to make, something a little more twisted. Undertale was pretty straightforward, but this one's a little more twisty if you play through all the 3 endings. So this is what's heavily inspired it, and I thought, hey, this would do well because it has a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of hidden things, like things that you may not see if you play on a certain computer or whatever. These small, minute things, it just makes the game more, replayable. It begs for it. That's what I was trying to go for. So if you were to ask me what game this was inspired by, yeah, I would say Undertale. But, however, it has sprinkles of let's say Grandia, or sprinkles of other top-down games with people, because I have a thing for them too. That's what I was going for.
The only I kind of it reminded me a bit of a visual obviously it's a different Hybrid Plains Drifter meets the original Suikoden. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it's obviously
I've played those games.
Yeah, you said the art style was heavy pixelated, and it was something that you were was it's still popular now, but I think you're correct. It was a little more popular a few years ago when you started on it.
Oh yeah. But it's just timing in essence. But I tried. It's been a good journey, so to speak.
And it's not like something you could have changed halfway through. You were kind of already committed.
No. Like if I changed everything, I'd probably be still working on it. But this is something I just want to get out of the way and move on. I'm getting older. I'm not getting any younger.
Well, you just finished college, so you can't be that old now.
You know what? According to Gen Z standards, I am old because I'm 20 something, early 20s, right? So,
okay.
Yeah.
No, you're quite a young man. Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah.
As somebody who was probably playing JRPGs when you were born, so I'm approaching 40 myself. So.
Oh yeah, it's okay.
So you mentioned Grandia growing up. Were there any other games that really influenced you growing up, JRPG wise, that you've been playing recently, even?
When I was growing up, I played a lot of the PS3 games. I wasn't much of an Xbox person. I play a lot of Disgaea.
Okay.
It was made by, I think, what's that?
Nippon Ichi.
Nippon Ichi, yeah. So, the humor that I learned from that game, if you heard of that, the humor they have in that game is actually pretty astounding. It's, the printies, the way they talk, the dialogue. It gets pretty dark, but the humor is still there.
Yes.
So I grew up playing those games, and I grew up loving and adoring the comic, and the whole little, camaraderie they have going on with the characters. So if anything, I have subconsciously, merged anime with humor with pixel art, and I created this game, The Revenant Prince. Despite it being a lot more darker, a lot more sinister, it still had humor. I think if you met the shopkeepers, they're very interesting people. I mean, you saw the shopkeepers, did you?
Yeah, what was it? A wolf character in the main.
Oh yeah,
there,
and as you go on, you'll see some sillier shopkeepers with corny jokes. So, there's actually a shopkeeper that's disguised as a pot, like a talking pot.
Awesome.
So
okay,
which is it's like, oh, don't break me. I have rights, and all that. So
that's fantastic.
The humor is plain. However, with visuals and context, it just gets it a lot more. It just amplifies it.
Oh,
That's the thing with humor. Yeah.
That's a good. I think the wolf even asked me, like, "What? You've never seen a wolf in a wig or something like that?" I forget the exact.
Oh, he has a
line,
wig collection.
I was like,
oh yeah, that's.
I don't think maybe, but yeah, it was a neat mix in that town. It was it had plenty of humans, but had a lot of non-humans as well. Humanoid animals. I mean, one of the first characters is a rabbit type character, if I'm not mistaken. So. Very, very cool aesthetic. I always like in games like that. Kind of like Suikoden, where you have the non-human characters that are just just a part of the world. It's not unusual at all.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's why when I was one of the biggest criticism was basically the rabbit looks too much like a rabbit. There has to be a reason why she's a rabbit. She has to look more human. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I opted for, some sort of an adorable look was because I just wanted the game to be relatable somewhat in terms of, they're non-human characters, but they don't look too human. You get it? So it has to be semi-relatable. In fact, there will be a bar you'll encounter that has a talking fedora.
Oh my goodness.
Hat. Yes. So these little cute things that happen in the game, it just speaks, hey, don't take us too seriously. We're a lighthearted game, but with dark themes. So, yeah.
So I did come across one thing since I've got you, your developer, I can introduce this. So you get those first quests that the main character insists upon calling them quests, and that was humorous in its own aspect. But I went and talked to one individual and gave me all the items that I needed for those.
Yeah.
So I thought that
was intentional.
That was crazy. Like, I was like, well, I guess I got to go out here and find all these things in the world. And then I just randomly talked to a very mysterious looking character who beckoned to be talked to. You had to. So I thought that was...
it was just one way to speed things up because it was a tutorial, basically, just to get used to the battle system, the whole... exploration. So I just put the guy there saying that, hey, if you want to replay the game, you can always talk to this guy. Mm-hmm. So that was the idea.
I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that. That really, thought that was really cool touch on there.
That was a lot of people missed him out, but yeah, that was it.
Oh, I don't see how you could not talk to that person. They're so shady, right?
Some of the people actually thought, they didn't think of anything because they just saw him and they just walked past. But, I was hoping some people picked on and just like, oh, look at this guy.
Of course, you
just
have to.
Being shady, just standing by the street. Mm-hmm.
Normally, I talk to everybody anyway, but you can't pass up that, quote unquote, the unique ones, right? The ones that
the unique ones,
non-NPCs. So.
What the hard part of being unique was that every single non-human character has an original name, if you noticed. Well, so I had to think of at least 300 names for each non-human NPC. So yeah.
Well, just in my experience alone, I didn't see a lot that looked the same. Like typically you go to a town and like half the people are just random, generic people. They don't have anything to them. I did not see two people that looked alike. So I thought that was really well done on your part.
Yeah, we had to. A lot of the games, especially the 3D ones, they use like stock. They copy paste, So I thought the rule of thumb was this: there had to be 2 of each variation in the game in one map.
Okay.
Well, in that 2 variation, they divide into 2 categories. Like, is it cold or is it hot? They're wearing coats, so the snows have more coated people. Mm-hmm. The desert had less lighter clothed people. It's just a mix. So I took some time to do that. It was pretty painstaking, but it was just to give the illusion of variety, so to speak.
I love that idea. Yeah. There's nothing that's more takes you out of a game is when you go to a location and it's freezing cold and nobody's wearing a jacket or vice versa. It's 1,000,000 degrees and everybody's just dressed normal. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's interesting.
So you mentioned some of the people had said different things to you. What has been the initial feedback from people like on social media and everything that's talked to you?
So basically the feedback, has been relatively positive, but not overwhelmingly positive. Let's be honest there. Because this is my first game, right? And, this game caters to the ones who are really wanting to dig deep and explore each and every nook and cranny, right? So one of the criticisms was, hey, the biggest criticism of the game is I don't know where to go. Where do I go next, And I thought I made it pretty clear where to go next, but I just wanted to encourage people to explore around and just find the small things I hope they find enjoyable. So if the game had better direction or had better guidance, then perhaps the feedback would be a lot more positive. However, that wasn't the case because if the game had too much guidance, then it becomes a handheld game, right?
Yes.
And I think that just takes off the exploration. We have to find that thin line. However, as my first time, I had a hard time meeting that, so to speak. Like, how do I make the game, hold your hand enough for you to do your own thing? Some people picked it up pretty quickly. They love the balance, they love the art style, and some people say that, hey, this is not my cup of tea. I don't like pixelated games, and it's just it's just how it is in the industry, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Not much you can do.
No, I think, obviously you're one man. You're doing everything. So, most time games would have like one person that's dedicated to this little part or this little part. And then, it'd be impossible for you to think of absolutely everything. But that wasn't your intent with this game. Was you didn't want a bunch of hand holding and, here's the star on the map, run to it. And this is your goal. You encouraged people to explore and do that. And I think it did tell you what to do, but it also let you do what you wanted to do. And that was clearly the intent.
I want, like, Undertale, when it was out, it didn't really have much hand holding in a way. You could find certain nuances that were very, undiscoverable. So what I could have done better, however, was I could have made a mini map because people 80% of the time were lost. The game was rather vast. Despite me thinking it wasn't that vast, but it is actually pretty vast in terms of like the map. Because when you make a game, you create a bias, right? Oh, it's not that big. They're gonna find a way. But when it's out, it's like, where am I? I'm lost. I'm in this desert. Then now I'm here.
Yeah.
So my biggest flaw was not appreciating bias, not understanding how important, how hard it is to break free of the bias. So yes, people got lost, but other than that, that was pretty much it. It was just that was the largest criticism was they didn't know what to do next. That was it.
Yeah, I think that goes back to normally you'd have like a quest tab or notebook or something.
Oh yeah, a tab,
something to that effect. That it's something that you would probably have put in there if this was your second or third game. It's like, oh, I've got to have this. I've got to have this. But it's so. That being said, are there plans to do like an update or anything, or is this kind of it is what it is?
So what's going to happen is this in terms of. This is more of this game. I try my best with it. I just want to move on, if anything.
Okay.
However, as I make more games, I will promise that if I do make games, I will go back to this one and patch it up. Maybe like release it as like a revised or maybe a definitive edition, just to get it out there properly. Because I feel that if I release a better game that fits the market in a short period of time, then maybe I can go back to this game and get it out there more, make it more meaningful.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, it's just a title right there for now. You can enjoy it, have fun with it, explore, and just simply, have fun. I mean, that's it. I will go back to it. I definitely will, and I'll likely fix the big issues, which I think there are. I don't think there's much, but I'll definitely come back.
Okay. I spoke with a young man a few weeks ago who was similar. He'd been making a game for a while, and he did exactly what you were talking about. He started working on a new one, made it, and then went back and made a second version of the first game that he had made, just kind of a final form of it, so to speak. What you'd learned by being in game development for a few years. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think if there are listeners that want to go into the industry, I can tell you that is not for the faint of heart. Not even close. It's not. Even if you have the capital to make games, it's finding the right people, keeping them accountable. Yes. I got scammed before trying to get assets out of the way. So
oh, man.
It's not an easy journey. I think. Also, the best thing you should do is find the right engine, in my honest opinion. This game was made by RPG Maker, and RPG Maker was the first engine. It was easy to pick up and taught me a lot of basics. But in my honest opinion, I wish I could have just picked another engine like Unity, where it had more supported, had a better community, a lot more professional people in there.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times what delayed the game was primarily the lack of professionalism, if anything.
That's interesting. That was going to be one of my questions, was what it was made with. And I would have actually guessed Unity, because doesn't that kind of work well with pixel drawn art?
I believe so, yeah, sort of.
Yeah, that's been my impression. My initial research into those two engines is RPG Maker.
Oh yeah.
You know, it does its thing. Obviously, it made this one, but
yeah, the big reason why I picked RPG Maker was because I was on a budget. I didn't have time to hire a professional coder.
Right.
I don't know how to code. Honestly, I don't know how to code. Not even close.
No, it's incredibly
all I do
difficult.
know is this should be red, this should be blue, this should do this. That's all I could. I think that's the good thing about being a visionary, or that's a bit cocky, about being somebody who wants to make things. You don't have to know how to make things, just know what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be a coder to be a game designer. You just got to be somebody who knows how game works or who plays a lot of games. You know,
that's what it used to be. Yeah.
That's why, Quentin Tarantino, for Pulp Fiction, I think he said that I didn't go to film school. I just watched a lot of movies, so same principle with games. You don't have to know how to make games. Just play a lot of games and the rest will come. Because when you make video games, it's all about feeling more than it is, theory. You know what I mean, right? So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's always the biggest criticism, and you can tell when a game developer is not a gamer. You kind of see it in their final product. You have to be that in order to appreciate it.
Definitely.
So what are some of the challenges? This probably is one of my last ones for you. Like, you're based in Indonesia, right?
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the challenges with developing there as opposed to maybe like in Japan or in the States, what are the limitations?
So, there are no limitations per se, because everybody I brought over was from Upwork.com.
Okay.
Upwork.com is a fantastic place to start. However, I'll tell you the truth. You have to hire people that you feel are competent, because people out there, they just want to make money. And all the competent people that you'll ever meet are probably already taken or booked, So
yes, yeah.
Find the right people is half the battle. The rest is just commitment and, honesty and accountability. So being Indonesian, I had to send money in dollars. If anything, that's the challenge, was just to be financially ready to send dollars, not rupiah. Yeah. And that's the only challenge, really. And of course, time zones, because people will be like, hey, I have a question, but you're asleep, so I'll just wait till next day. And you just wasted 20 hours. Like, okay, here's the answer to the question.
Yeah.
You wasted 10 hours. That's it. That's the only challenge, is just, delays, time differences, and, dollars.
Gotcha. Kind of like
don't get discouraged, though. Yeah, don't get discouraged.
I was gonna say, it's kind of like when we were trying to connect it and get this interview set up. Yeah, I think there's 10 hours or so difference, if not 11.
Oh yeah, it's about a good 12 hours or so, but it's fine. It's good.
Just a funny story is I'm not sure I guess it's your manager or something was trying to connect us to, and the first time he set up an interview time for us, it was like 5 a.m. for me. It would have been great. It would have been great for you, but I'm not quite up at that point in time. So yeah.
No. It's okay. No.
You don't want to talk to me at 5 a.m. That'd have been bad for everybody.
No. I could feel it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's fantastic. I think. I think going forward that this is going to be a brand that we're going to hear about again, and maybe in a few years, after you put out a few things, make some bukus of cash, maybe you can come back to JRPGs and kind of make, that the game that you really always wanted to do. Yeah.
I always wanted to make a game, a AAA title game, where characters don't look too human, like they're anime, but with American tropes. I believe the games that really sell, all right, that involve characters that look very, how do you say, Japanesque, or animesque, and they sound American, they talk like Americans, and there's American tropes. Those games sell. I noticed Final Fantasy VII, they sell pretty well because the characters look anime, but they sound American.
Right.
And everything feels so Western. Direction, soundtrack. If you make a game that has Asian culture, however, has a bombardment, or rather a Western touch to it, it's beautiful, in my opinion. It just creates this whole market that people really love, so to speak. That's just me, though.
No, I think you're right.
I love Western culture. Yeah, so.
I always thought that was interesting that like every Japanese game always has American-looking characters. It's always been something that's been on my mind. Like, what? obviously it's a conscious decision, but it's just very odd that you would think you'd have a something more like Yakuza. Not to be generic about it, but that would seem to be what a Japanese gamer would make is characters that look
Something
Japanese.
More, yeah. or that Shenmue game. I don't know what happened to that game. Oh my god.
Oh, it got crowdfunded into oblivion from what I heard. But
oh dear. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's obviously all the popular games, Personas, Final Fantasies. Those all have exact American. There's occasional
tropes.
Asian,
yeah,
but,
like the music is even American.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so those games do well. If you want to make a game like that.
Yeah,
like Asian plus Western touches, perfect. Not gonna lie.
Well, that'll be something on your drawing board for a few years, and maybe we can. We can chat again then when that masterpiece comes out.
I think I'll be 38 by then if I try to make a game of AAA nature. Hopefully you'll be around, but please be around.
That seems like it's about 5 or 6 years to make a AAA game. So yeah, you gotta know what you're signing up for with those.
Oh yeah, it's gonna take ages. That is what it is, though. Mm-hmm.
Well, how can people get in touch with you? What's your social medias? What's the best way to get in touch and follow you?
So, if anything, I think one of the social medias is Nomina Games. So, if anything, there's a Twitter account I have called Nomina Games. You can follow that easily. It's at Nomina Games, at NOMINAGAMES, Nomina Games. Yeah. Just follow me on there. Or, yeah. Just reach out to us, and as we make more games, we'll definitely keep you up to date.
Awesome. And I'll put the link on this video and in the description so people can.
Thank you.
Is there a story behind the name, or is it just something you thought was sounded cool?
So when I made that game, right? Sorry, not the game. The brand was basically when you nominate something, it's a collective effort of people that want to bring up something. So I thought if I want to make a video game, it has to be a nominated effort. People that I work with have to love what they're doing to bring up a product that they believe in. A lot of game developers just do what they're told, but if they don't do what they love, then it just takes the soul out of the product, in my opinion. So I thought of Nomina Games, a game where a nominated game, a game brought up by people that believe in it. So
that's cool.
That was
I like
the whole philosophy. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
very good.
I just thought that would be the whole idea behind nomina or nominate. Yep.
Very cool. That's a good story, and I think that's a good one we'll end it on that. Unless there's anything else you want to throw out there, your final pitch to fans.
You know what? If anything, if you're listening to this, I could tell you that the game industry is violent. However, if you do your research, you do your planning, and you do your budgeting, that's a big thing, then you'll be fine. However, the number one thing you should have is persistence. That's what I think. That's sheer, undying persistence. So please, fight on, my friends.
I think that's a good message, regardless of what you're talking about. Especially for this day and time. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Especially.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Darrel, for coming on the JRPG Report and talking with us. It's been a true pleasure.
No worries. Thank you. Stay safe out there,
We will do our best. You do the same, and we will talk with you very soon. Thank you.
Of course. No problem.
All right. You're my pleasure. All right, guys. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you next week with another awesome JRPG Report podcast. My name is James Fisher. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, get back out there and level up.